The first segment of the Hot 7 Nightly News is brought to you by Flow.
Tonight, a St. Lucian living in Haiti says Haitians stand strong in the face of tragedy following Saturday's earthquake. We get the full scale of the damage following Haiti's quake. And the nation's streets claim another life following a fatal motorcycle collision. The details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Monday, the 16th of August, 2021. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. I'm Lovelace St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. The people of the first Black Republic, Haiti, are living up to their true name and nature by showing pure resilience in the face of tragedy. That's according to one St. Lucian national currently residing in the disaster-stricken island. Days after a 7.2 magnitude earthquake rocked the island, killing over 1,000 with a death toll still rapidly rising, Jimmy Evelyn says the locals are already pushing on with life despite the circumstances.
On the morning of Saturday, August 14th, residents of the French Creole sister isle of St. Lucia, Haiti, were awoken to a frightening phenomenon reminiscent to one which occurred 11 years ago and claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands. A 7.2 earthquake shook the nation, crumbling buildings and structures in its wake. In the aftermath, one St. Lucian currently residing in the country for employment purposes spoke to Hot 7 and relived the moment that the earth began to shake.
It was a normal day where I came to Prairie and I was just leaving the production building, and as I was closing the door, I heard a blow. I couldn't close the door; it was jamming, so I tried to figure out what was wrong. And an engineer who was with me said, "Well, something is happening outside." So we quickly went out and saw people coming down from the building and assembling at the normal assembly point. And everybody was basically trying to call their relative to find out what was happening around the country and where actually the epicenter was. Found out it was in the south, and not many of our staff are from the south, but those who were called family and found that there was quite a lot of damage down there.
Haiti has a well-documented history of tragedy, including earthquakes, hurricanes, and most recently the assassination of the country's president, all whilst dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Evelyn said despite it all, the people are ready to get on with life.
I think it's depends on who you speak to, but one thing that's certain that the memories of the last earthquake was very evident. People were very emotional one. So you saw resilience of people, because even after Saturday, suddenly people were willing to come back to work and move on with their life, but they shared the concern for the people and who was ill, and they were just getting back to normal. They were burying the dead yesterday. Some friends and relatives of staff had one or two deaths in the family, and they were back to the normal thing, burying the dead, trying to pick up the pieces to get back together. If it's one thing I was quite shocked at the resilience of the people. Though they are emotional, but they are resilient. They tend to move on, and they seem to have quite a lot of hope of the future being better.
Evelyn says that he believes this too shall pass. The wounds of the past year are still fresh, but he is confident that the people of Haiti will rise from the ashes of this new tragedy. Reporting for the Hot 7 Nightly News, I am Karim Nelson.
Meanwhile, a BBC report is highlighting the gravity of the quake which occurred in the already devastated island. In the aftermath, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has vowed to stand ready to assist in any effort that its sister Caribbean community, CARICOM Nation, may require following the tragedy.
There's been a sharp rise in the death toll from the devastating earthquake that hit Haiti on Saturday. Almost 1,300 people are now known to have died. Many more are feared to be trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings. The epicenter of the 7.2 magnitude quake was 150 kilometres southwest of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Hospitals in the area are inundated and they are struggling to cope with the number of injured, which has almost doubled to around 6,000 people. Medical teams are being sent from Cuba and Ecuador amid concerns about the approach of a tropical storm. James Clayton reports.
It's been a devastating 48 hours for this already impoverished region in the southwest of the country. The earthquake hit in the morning when many were just waking up, and it's hit hard. It rocks churches, hotels and people's homes. The shaking earth too much for structures that collapse in on themselves, sometimes on top of people. Houses that were supposed to be places of safety transformed into death traps.
We've seen many patients that were trauma patients. So we're talking about orthopedic patients and surgical trauma patients. That's for one. So they had to be addressed urgently. Some of them had to be transferred and moved from their locality to more specialized facilities in Port-au-Prince or elsewhere.
The earthquake was bigger than the one that hit Haiti's capital 11 years ago, which killed up to 300,000 people. This earthquake won't compete with that death toll, but there are fears of thousands of deaths.
There are several factors that make the aid mission here difficult. For one, there's a tropical storm just blowing in now. You might be able to see from the clouds behind me. But there's also political turmoil here. The president was assassinated only last month, and many people here believe that the Haitian government simply doesn't have the capacity to deal with a disaster like this.
The route to the affected areas from Haiti's capital is a dangerous road controlled by gangs. Many Haitians, too, are skeptical of international help after much of the money promised to rebuild the country after 2010 was squandered. With the state of emergency called, the people of Haiti are now waiting, watching to see what their government and the international community can do to help. James Clayton, BBC News, Port-au-Prince.
On Sunday the 15th of August, a vehicular accident resulted in a young man losing his life.
On Sunday, August 15th, at approximately 6:40 p.m., emergency personnel at the Grizzly Fire Station responded to a call relating to a motor vehicular incident involving a motorcycle and another vehicle. The responding officers found one male appearing in his late 20s lying on his back on the ground. An assessment revealed that the patient sustained major facial and body trauma and was void of vital signs. CPR was initiated and the patient was quickly mobilized on a spine board and transferred to an awaiting ambulance. The patient was provided rapid emergency transportation to the OKU hospital, where he was later pronounced dead by a medical practitioner.
Aside from the fatal accident, Fire Service spokesperson Stacey Joseph gave details of some of the other calls that the Fire Service responded.
The weekend of August 13th to 16th was a relatively quiet one for the St. Lucia Fire Service. A total of 104 calls were recorded, with the majority of calls being medical in nature and COVID-19 related. There were no fire calls during that period, and only 3 calls relating to physical assault were received. There were 10 motor vehicular incidents recorded, which were generally minor in nature.
Reports indicate that a foreign national is in police custody, assisting with the investigation into the road fatality. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. Still to come, the traffic department of the RSLPF makes an impassioned plea for more road safety. Former NGP candidate explains why she quit, and the new housing minister calls for a complete housing overhaul. That and more after the break.
The first segment of the Hot 7 Nightly News was brought to you by Flow.